there's kind of like this inner fraternity of guys who played up front.
His name is not Mike, and he's never coming back.
They added some talent. They added some athleticism at the quarterback position, which who cares about quarterbacks?
Oh, let's go.
He's got the weight pods, too.
Doing?
Good.
Guy goes to Yale for a little bit, and he's got the AirPods. I don't know.
Hey, you got to make upgrades and everything.
Yeah. Fake it till you make it, I guess.
Absolutely. That's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah, that's Sam style.
Of course.
Sam, do you keep the I haven't noticed. Do you change up the shirt every episode, or is it the same shirt?
I do change up the shirt every episode. This was actually the fourth one I tried on tonight. I was a little indecisive. I didn't know if I was going to rep the Springfield but I went back to the Hawaiian.
I had to rock the roach with the guests coming in, so.
Absolutely.
Sam's the collared shirt guy. He said he wanted to be collared shirt guy. I don't know.
I am collared shirt guy.
I think I'm just going for hat guy at this point.
Yes. I like hat.
I was gonna say you guys all need like your weekly looks to keep up with.
I think we're gonna do the I'll do like the small business t-shirts, except for this one because we're rocking the fam, and then Sam's collared shirt and Tanner's a wild card guy, and your AirPods now. So
tight ends are always a wild card.
Tight ends are
with us next there with the receivers.
Tanner's got his gloves on right now, ready to go.
Oh my goodness!
Most athletic lineman.
I allegedly didn't sprain his ankle playing basketball. Who knows?
That was just a rumor.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just never gonna live that down ever.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. How's your quarantine been?
It's good. I mean, as you guys can tell, I need my barber to open back up. I'm counting nine more days, and then and I'm not going to try it myself. I've heard too many horror stories of guys who have messed up and just shaved their head, which wouldn't be a bad thing, but
no,
it's all right.
If this gets pushed back anymore, then I'm rocking a YouTube video doing it in the mirror. I'm not kidding. I might come in with a faux hawk one day. Just that's the new look.
Have you what have you been doing past the time wise? Have you been watching the Last Dance or anything, like with no sports going on?
Yeah, I missed episode 8 last night because I ended up just falling asleep on the couch. But I think it's pretty crazy. I think obviously everybody's taken from so far. I feel like each week there's something like you can take from it that's not just basketball, but applies to sports, applies to life. That's why I think it's such an interesting documentary. I think obviously his point on leadership and winning, and everybody the whole nice guy thing. But I think Jordan realized, which a lot of people try to realize, is you might not come off as the nicest guy, but I think you have to act in a way that's going to get you the results that you want, not only for yourself but as the whole team. So I think it's been awesome.
I think it's great kind of going off what you said and it makes me laugh because basketball is just kind of a different sport. But they're like pegging him. Oh, he's not a nice guy. Like, is he a jerk, this and that, because he gets on his teammates. And I think that's great. And I think that's a big thing encouraged, especially for us at Springfield and kind of in football in general. I think it's a healthy thing to be called out and stuff. So,
because it's just, I don't think he was doing it to be malicious or to be a jerk. You got to look at the greater scheme of things. And he's just trying to hold everybody to the same expectations that he has for himself. I know that's the best thing you said. He's like, I'm never going to ask someone to do something that I wouldn't do. So it's not out of the question, out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought last night's episodes were great. And the thing that really stood out to me was Scottie Pippen taking himself out of the game as an offensive lineman. As a guy who never gets the shot or the ball, that kind of made me a little sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if I would, and I get what the situation is, and I think that's the interesting point of, okay, that's in like a crucial time of the year, but I would have been really interesting to see if something like that had transpired more like in the regular season, as opposed to you get to these moments where every game counts, every shot counts, and it's like, yeah, you have to you have to squash any kind of beef you're going to have. But I would be interested to see if the reaction was different and how it almost seemed like he apologized. And I think some guys almost accepted it quickly because of the situation that they were in. And I know they talk about they still carry kind of slight grievances, and no one's forgotten that moment. But I think if it was at a different point in the year, it'd be interesting to see if it would have been the same, if it had been different.
One of the things that I took away was when he started talking about after he came back from his first retirement, and a lot of like the new rookies that came on and everything that they signed were like acting entitled, like they were a part of that first three-peat. And the first thing he said was like, we haven't done anything. Like, you guys haven't done anything. Like, we can't get comfortable with like who we were. Like, this is now. Like, you gotta adapt to what the situation is now, and like you gotta you can't just be who you were. You gotta adapt to the new circumstances of people want to take the finals away from you.
Yeah, I think just the whole growth throughout the whole documentary too, just not only MJ, but just the franchise, the team. I think you look at when he first came in the league, and he had talked about he'd never really taken weight training seriously. There might have been some things that he might have overlooked, but just almost little things that he wasn't doing, but just the change in himself to realize you got to take it to the next level now. But I think it's been a great series so far.
Yeah. I guess kind of the first thing that we'd like to focus on, kind of shifting it back to football a little bit, is kind of how we were talking about how you have to show up on a consistent basis, and people depend on you, and there really is no tapping out when it comes to being up front. Just kind of in general, as a man, how would you say being an offensive lineman and working with the offensive line and kind of doing it your whole life, how has it shaped you into who you are today?
I think first and foremost, just the work ethic side of things. Like you guys had said, there's so much nitty and gritty that goes into it. But I think that mindset and the small, minute details that a lot of other people might not think are that crucial and important, I think that become that much more important in offensive line play. And I know we talk like game of football, it's inches everywhere, but it truly is. If I take a 45-degree step that's not a 45, I'm not going to be on the right trajectory in my path, my angle to get downfield, or whatever my responsibility is. I think that's carried over into my personal life, and not looking at. I think looking at kind of the smaller details in life, and just I think it's really helped shape my coaching career as well, because even like before this, like working on a film breakdown, and you want to make sure everything's consistent, everything's the way it's supposed to be. You want to make sure everything's spelled correctly, like the small little things. I think you take away from that position becomes so much more important later on. I think just the people you're around too, and I think as a society, it's kind of common that the people you associate yourself with are that philosophy of it as well carries into a lot of the things you do. And I think I've been so fortunate to play in a what I think is a solid high school program, and play at a solid college program like Springfield, and the year at Maine Maritime, working with a type of kid like that, I think was beneficial as well. And obviously the 2 years back at Springfield were awesome, because you get to work with people who are passionate about what they do, not only just in football, but how they carry themselves in their academic lives, how they carry themselves in their personal lives. I think has been a token of a lot of the things that I've taken from being an offensive lineman, coaching the offensive line. I think that's all started to carry over my personal life as well.
Mm-hmm. I think just to kind of carry off that a little bit, it's interesting how you say there's people that you rely on and you can connect, and truly surrounded by a group of people that are passionate about the same thing that you are. And obviously we all share that, which is why we're here in the first place. And you're talking about how you came from a good program with Ledyard. And now I find it interesting how someone who you played with and now someone you coached with is now a coach at your old high school. So it's kind of funny how you say it's a passionate group of people and you connect, and I can imagine you had something to do with that. But it's awesome.
And I didn't mean to cut you off, Tony, but I think I think it truly does go back from my high school coach, Jim Bunacore, being a Springfield guy, Springfield GA, and kind of looked at a couple of different things before really kind of settling on like the PE high school football coach type deal. And and I think it goes back to truly how special relationships are, not only in life, but just in this game. And the relationship that I had with him through high school, through college, now kind of almost, and still he's a mentor to me, but also kind of like a colleague. Yep. And I think it's like you were saying, it's a big shout out to Mike Stricchio, by the way, new head football coach at Ledger High School. But I think the relationship that Mike and I developed, and then when I saw the position opened up, just knowing from the type of person that Mike is, and I guess my personal belief on what the program needed, I couldn't think of anybody else who was better suited for the position than him. And I think that goes back into what we were talking about from playing at Springfield with Mike. I think we carry ourselves in a similar way, a little bit different personalities, but again, another great, I think just a great person in general that I think is going to do wonderful things at Ledger.
One of the things that I think we've tried to shift into with this especially is to both learn and also provide some sort of help, especially to, possibly younger kids, some maybe young high school kids who have the desire to play college football. And one thing that we wanted to ask you was if there's anything that stands out in terms of a piece of advice you could give a kid who either wants to play offensive, defensive line, at the college level, or just in general, to a senior who has that passion to play at the next level. You being a former college player and obviously now a college coach, I feel like, is there any one piece of advice through the college process that you can kind of give to someone who's pursuing that?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is take advantage of all the opportunities that you have. I think kind of in the recruiting side of it is get yourself out there, I think guys can promote themselves in the right way, especially now with, there's so much, with social media, all the free access you can have. And I think the interactions are great. I think in terms of a student athlete in high school, I think that the first thing is listening to your high school coach. And I think that becomes, I think, from a recruit standpoint, I hope they take it seriously, but from, a college coach standpoint, the biggest thing that I always look for was the high school coach's recommendation. And I think they have so much knowledge of not just who that certain recruit might be as a football player, but as a person as well, from seeing them, especially if they're in the school. You see them in an academic setting, you see them in an athletic setting, you see them in a social setting. How do they respond to adversity? So I think having a great relationship with your high school coach is very important. I think in maximizing take advantage of all the opportunities you can to not only go to the schools that you want might be on your list, but just going to, different camps, because you never know when, hey, you might run into a coach from so-and-so school at one camp, and then another coach from that same school might be at another camp. So I think putting yourself out there in the right way, I think is some great advice. I think and kind of enjoy the process as well. I think at times for kids it can be a little bit overwhelming, but just enjoy it, because it really only happens once in your life, and I think taking advantage of it for what it is pretty special. So yeah.
Next question. So to kind of go off that, obviously there are differences between the Division I and Division III level, but what are those most important things that you're looking for when recruiting offensive linemen?
I think and this is kind of in general, but I think each level presents its its challenges, its kind of specifics. Like right now, one of the first things you're looking for is GPA, is test scores, because it's so much more selective. I think from a personal belief, I love to see guys who can finish, and I think that's one of those traits that, however hard you want to coach it, sometimes kids that's just one thing that you're either going to do it or you're not going to do it. And I think you can build off that so much with a kid's drive, and that people are like, well, how do you measure that? Well, if I throw the film on and I see someone just relentlessly blocking downfield, you can coach up all the technique. You can learn and develop different skills. But I think the mindset of just that finish mentality, I think for, certain positions, the tackle position, you like to see kids who can bend a little bit more. Footwork is pretty solid. I think looking at, their hips and their mobility, I think once you move more into the interior, it's kind of a little bit of everything. I think some, nastiness you play with, and the physicality that those guys have. And I think the center position is so unique because you can kind of have a couple of different molds. But I think the one big thing to me is a kid's drive, his finish. And I think all the other things kind of, then that's how these kids start to separate themselves. Okay, they might be both great finishers and effort down the field, but hey, this kid might bend a little bit better than the other one. So I think those are a couple of things.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about what you said is a lot of kids fall in love with the combine and those combine numbers. You didn't reference that at all right there. You were talking about the way they play and the way they bend, which I believe is two very important skills as an offensive lineman.
Yeah, and I think the flexibility, the bend piece is kind of one that sometimes might get overlooked early on in development, but I think that is so crucial. I think that's something that kids don't realize. You can do that at home. Like you can develop or from your strength coach get a mobility, flexibility, workout or some different stretches and everything. You can do that when you wake up. You can do that before you go to bed. It's not like you need to find a squat rack or a bench to use, or even a gym. So I think those are all little things that kids can work on now that the thought process might not be there immediately. Like, okay, what can I do to get better today? Hey, I'm going to go do 15 to 20 minutes every day of mobility and stretching. And I think guys are going to see that pay off for them. Might not be right away. It might not be next week, but there'll come a time where just the way they move is going to be so much more fluid.
Yeah. And I think based off what you're saying that's great advice, especially for right now, because you're not blinded by the gyms and the weight rooms and all those things. I mean, everyone's locked up in their house right now. Everyone can bend over, touch their toes a few more times a day, and develop those things that kind of get overlooked a lot, which is a really key thing to focus on right now.
Yeah, and I think that's an any level type thing too. And I think anybody, high school, college, professional, obviously the professionals have a little more access to everything and kind of trickles down. But for right now, almost everybody is on an even playing field in terms of the access that they have. And, some guys might have, fancy in-home gyms, but for the most part, everybody's kind of on an even playing field. I think you look at, all these, phenomenal and superior athletic facilities that I think some of these Division I kids, NFL players get used to being, and you take that out of the picture, everybody's the same right now.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, I think this is the first time, at least in our lives, that everyone's been completely even. There is no separation between divisions because no one's playing. There is no separation between high school and college because nobody's in either of those things. And I think just kind of in society, when we come out of this, you'll see who really had been focusing on it, the little things. And we tweeted out today, actually, we're just curious as to how people are managing their weight without weight rooms. Like, how are offensive linemen keeping on the LBs, like when you come out of this season's not far away, hopefully. And I think it's going to be interesting to see who's been monitoring those little things that just, it's all about passion right now, which is great. I mean, it's terrible.
And I think even for us, like our biggest concern was getting our guys back under a bar as soon as we can, and finding, and as interesting as it sounds, it's trying to find ways. I think once gyms open up, doing the things as safe as we can. But we'll send them things that they can do from home, and if they have like 10 yards available to them in their backyard, their front yard, whatever it is, footwork drills, stance, start, little kind of everyday type practice things that they can do on their own. But I think that's, for us especially, and I think as an offensive line, is there's so much development time, that we miss from not having spring practice, and trying to figure out when the kids can get back onto campus and how that's going to work. But and we tell them the same thing, is like, control what you can control right now. And if that's improving your diet, if that's any type of footwork drill, is the same kind of thing. You can do that on your own right now, and have the kids like videotape themselves, and they could send it in for critique still. So, and then Zoom meetings, and trying to stay on as much of a routine as possible, I think has been important for the kids. So try to keep that going too.
I can't help but like think of like Coach C addressing us all and being like, like you said, control the controllables, like whatever's going on, like, we whatever during the season, you're always going to face some sort of challenge, something in your way. And like, we always say like, we'll play in a parking lot. Like, it doesn't matter. Like what anywhere, like we'll do it. And that's just kind of based off of like what you said, attitude and effort. It's like the only thing, those are things that you can control.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of going back to backtracking a little bit to the, development question, and from being an offensive lineman. I think you look at Coach C, and, so many of the things that he says in a daily, like on daily, is just like, it's not only just football, but you can take those and apply them to life. And I think that was what's so special about the Springfield program, is it's truly not just developing the best football players, but it's the best people, it's the best brothers. And I think we take those things that we do on the field, in the meeting rooms, in the weight room, and you apply them to life, and makes you a better person. So shout out to Coach C.
Yeah, now to go off Coach C, obviously head coach at Springfield, who runs the triple option. You're now going to Yale, who runs the spread offense. What do you think you've learned from him being a triple option offensive line coach that you can bring and help maybe a spread offensive line coach?
I think, just some of the differing philosophies that some guys might have. And I think people think they're so different, and obviously the philosophy of them are, but I think you can look and find different little nuances that, you might do in the triple option that you can still apply, into the spread. And I think, from a movement standpoint, and I think, we still use combination blocks with the triple, use combination blocks, obviously, with Yale. And I think we might, the philosophy of it might be different, the speed of it might be different, and what kind of we're looking at in terms of blocking angles, responsibilities, protections. But I think the biggest thing is that there's more carryover coming to Yale than I actually thought there was going to be. But it's just like anything else. I mean, you got to adjust to, different terminology, different philosophies. And I think that's kind of one of the big takeaways from Springfield, just from a philosophical standpoint, is like, hey, you got to adapt and overcome. So here we go. And it's been early on a little bit more of a challenge, but, it's starting to flow better now, and you start to understand some of the concepts and how, one thing plays into another, and really what's the why behind it. And I think that's been one of the biggest things. But I think just the philosophical takeaways from Springfield that you can apply to Yale, I think, are pretty similar. And you have some guys with connections to Springfield, which I think is awesome. So some of the sayings are kind of the same, which has been pretty cool to see. But no, and it's been awesome. It's been a great transition. Love it. It's a great program to be a part of.
Yeah, and I think what I can't help but take away from that is you see guys go from coaching one school and will change places, or whether it's at the professional level, there's kind of a adjustment in systems and things like that. And although there's a separation between you and kind of your cohorts, I guess, in a sense, Coach Netter, offensive line coach, obviously well-known, played at the professional level, played for the Niners, and you being a former D3 offensive lineman who coached the triple for a few years, I think it's very interesting how, although you may not share the same background, because you shared the same status at one point of being a guy who was up front, I feel like that has kind of helped with the transition because there's a common ground. There's an understanding of the way things need to be done, and there's a way that it works in a sense. The game of football as a whole and kind of the culture that comes with putting your hand in the dirt.
Yeah, and I think and that's been awesome too. Working with Coach Netter has been great. But I think just the respect level of, offensive linemen in general. I think when you say, hey, I played offensive line, doesn't matter where it is, but there's that feeling of, hey, this guy has an idea of,
this is my type of guy.
Exactly. So I think, and I don't know what's about it, but just like, I mean, obviously guys' personalities are different, but I think that's the common bond that you share that you can relate back to. And I think it just starts to, develop that relationship already. And I think it helps build it so much quicker. It's just the mutual respect of, might have been completely different systems playing wise, but I think the idea of the position doesn't change too much.
Yeah.
And with the position, we all know there are certain traditions that we enjoy a lot. We have a kind of unique question for you. You're in the electric chair. You got one last fat night order.
Oh God.
We all know that we love our fat nights at Sophia's. What are we going with? My freshman year at Springfield, the first couple weeks and I've told this story before, is like where you try to find what's your go-to order, and started changing it up. Like one week I was like, okay, like might go with the quesadilla and wings, and it's like, okay, one week might go with the Irish nachos and wings, and then you find out that's a very heavy order. So I think you gotta find what's like your prime heaviness for fat night. And I think freshman year is like, okay, that's where you know to stay away from, or like this combo isn't there. So I'm gonna go with, and it's been since probably midway through freshman year, I'm gonna go with, the only change up though was, which I forget which one of you guys introduced it to me, but the
roasted wings.
The roasted wings.
Yes, roasted wings.
So I'm gonna go garlic bread and cheese and 20 hot roasted wings.
That's some girth.
And that's been consistent. Like I said, the only change up was in my, what would this have been? In my 6 years of fat nights, year 6 was finally the roasted year.
Yeah, that was a game changer. I don't think I'll ever forget me and John.
Oh my God!
Doing the 60
roasted, the 60 wings.
Oh my God!
It's like, I don't know, maybe that big. The roasted wings like this, and we're like 60. That's nothing.
They're definitely bigger.
Yeah, no, I think I should have been checked in somewhere. Like that was too fat. That was like, whoa.
I couldn't.
I think that is an interesting thing. I feel like almost every offensive line has like their spot where they'll go eat.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes it, like we talk about the tradition side of it and the uniqueness of it, and I think you just get a bunch of good guys together eating a lot of food is never a bad time.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that when Tony and John, you both did that, and you both equally did 30, didn't you?
Yeah, we counted it out after the fact, and we're like, "What'd you get?" Oh, good job.
What number are you on? You can't go ahead of me.
All right. Well, you want to give us one last
Little see you later.
yeah.